Humanities class. Okay, today we're carrying on with our world religion unit, and we're still kind of at the beginning of it. Now, if you remember in my intro video, I said, now this is kind of a fluky thing, but I broadly divided world religions today into two very general categories of Eastern religions and Western religions. Now, most of us in America would be way more familiar with Western religions because America is kind of a Western culture and country, meaning it kind of our culture, our roots and heritage, for the most part, are coming out of Europe. Um, Anyway, the big Western religions that I had mentioned were Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Now, Christianity and Islam are the two biggest religions in the world today. They have the most followers. But actually, and a lot of people don't know this, I'm guessing some of you maybe know this, but likely don't. Both of those religions, which often have an adversarial relationship and kind of look at each other as the enemy, have their roots in Judaism. Now, Judaism is a much, much smaller religion, especially in terms of like how many people or followers or practitioners of it. But it laid the foundation for these other monotheistic religions. So remember, a theist is somebody that believes that there is a God, or a polytheist would believe there's multiple gods. Well, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam all are monotheistic religions, meaning that they believe that there is one all-powerful creator God. That concept really kind of does take hold. And Judaism wasn't necessarily the first religion that had that view, but it was the one that had the biggest impact by far on the world, the modern world today, and just religions in general. Now, Jews are actually it's an interesting one because this is the only example I can think of for you. Like Christianity and Islam would not fall into this category, but Judaism is the one religion that is a religion and it's an ethnicity kind of wrapped in together. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, think about it. Christians, what do they look like? Well, you might have an image in your mind. Maybe it's somebody that looks like me, some white guy from the Midwest. But that doesn't have to be. And actually, there's over 1 billion Christians worldwide. There are Christians of all different creeds and colors. You can find Asian or Oriental Christians, Black, Africans that are Christians, white people, just the whole mix and spectrum. But being part of any of those ethnicities doesn't necessarily mean you are a Christian. Like, for example, I already said that, I'm an agnostic. I kind of don't believe it could, the whole God issue could be proven or disproven. Well, with Judaism, it is a religion and you could go join it. And I could go find you examples of somebody that is like a Black African that converted to Judaism, but it's pretty darn rare because both Christianity and Islam, they have like components of the religion are that you are supposed to spread the good news and recruit more people to your religion to try to save their souls. Judaism doesn't really have that. So the numbers of practicing Jews has never really blown up. Also, uh, you could say somebody is a Jew, but they might not be a practicing like literal like monotheistic believer. For example, there are a lot of Jews. Like actually, I think I'd have to check this stat again, but I've heard that like something like 50% of people that would be considered Jews around the world actually are atheists or agnostics. They don't even practice their religion or necessarily believe in a God, but ethnically they're still a Jew. So it's kind of confusing and hard to understand. Sometimes I have a hard time wrapping my head around it, but it's like, it's a religion on the one hand that actually has like the religious dogma and principles and traditions and beliefs and all that, but it also is an ethnic group at the same time. You think back to like World War II and the Holocaust. If it was just a matter of you people that went to synagogue and prayed to Yahweh and read about Moses, if those were the Jews, well, think about it. probably a lot of the European Jews would have just said, well, I denounce my religion, so you don't have to go put me in the gas chamber or, try to exterminate us. But of course, Hitler wouldn't have looked at it that way at all. He felt like you were a Jew by birth and that they're just naturally like troublemakers. And whether they were practicing Jews or not, he considered them a Jew. And, they were targeted in the European Holocaust. So hopefully that makes sense to you a little bit. But it really is the only religion that I can think of that I can give you a clear example that it has this kind of dual purpose. On the one hand, it's a religion. On the other hand, it's also an ethnic group. Now, know that Jews are a really small minority, even though it's a very well-known religion. And most everybody, I would imagine, in America and probably most people around the world have heard of Jews before. There's not very many practicing Jews or people that are even ethnically Jews. The last time I tried to track down the numbers for this, it's about I think 14 million Jews worldwide. Okay. Now to put that in perspective for you, there are 7 billion people on planet Earth. Christianity has a little bit over 1 billion followers. I believe Islam, the Muslim religion, is about 1 billion followers. Little Judaism that was kind of the root of both of those other massive world religions, only has about 14 million followers. And I think a big part of that is that in that religion, it doesn't have a strong recruiting component. Jews aren't out there trying to bring other people into the fold and convert them to Judaism. Now, you can go convert and become a Jew. That is possible, but it's actually a pretty high bar to do that. And I've never looked into it or considered it myself, but I know just a little bit about it. And it sounds like it's actually quite a bit of work to go to synagogue and actually convert to Judaism, as opposed to becoming a Christian or a Muslim. Well, you can just show up at church and say, yeah, I accept Jesus in my heart. I'm a Christian now. I want to be saved. And it's kind of as simple as that. That's not quite the case for Judaism to get in. And of course, if you're not born a Jew, I don't know, how does that work? You never really can change your ethnicity or who you are in that respect. So you could convert to the religion, but the ethnic group is kind of set. Now, there is some diversity within Jews as a group. The Jews that we would probably be most familiar with, that largely are the Jews that live in America, are the Ashkenazi Jews. Those would have been the Jews that were like the white Europeans, the ones when you watch a Holocaust movie and Hitler is trying to target the Jews in Poland or Hungary. Those were Ashkenazi Jews. Now, my guess is that their numbers would be not up to 1 billion, but they would be significantly higher today if Hitler had not killed 6 million of them. Think for a group that today in 2020, 80 some years after World War II, there's 14 million of them. Well, if 6 million of them had not been wiped out back in the Holocaust era, how many would there be today? It wouldn't be 1 billion, but it would probably be significantly more than 14 million when you go down a few generations and figure, especially the Jews of that era typically had fairly large families. So that made a pretty big impact on their numbers worldwide. Now, let me look through my notes here. Another thing I want to say about Judaism, I think if there's one group that I could give you, or one religious group that I could give you an example of, that are, maybe for lack of a better way of saying this, that are overachievers and are disproportionately represented in kind of a good way. I think Jews fall into that category more than any other group that comes to mind. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, even though Jews are 14 million out of 7 billion people on the planet. So think about that. That's under 1/10% of global population. Whether you realize it or not, you probably know a ton of Jews, maybe not in your local community, because there isn't a huge population of Jews in Jackson, but within pop culture and looking at the media, there are a lot of people that are Jews that are very, very successful. Now, why is that? Well, I don't know. Your guess, I guess, is as good as mine there. But one thing we can definitely say is many Jews have been very, very successful, and really in any countries that they go to, it seems like, especially here in America, where they've just, if you look at demographics and such, On average, Jews are like some of the highest wage earners statistically in America. They're also one of the most highly educated groups. They've done very well in just culture, media, in finance, and in politics. And of course, that ties back into World War II a little bit too. That like that was one of the big criticisms Hitler had about them, was that they were taking over all the finances of the world, and these rich Jewish bankers. There was a conspiracy. Of course, that's all Nazi craziness, but anyway, usually that is one of the first things that pops into people's mind when you start talking about the topic of Judaism. Of course, that's in the modern mind is totally linked to the Holocaust too, and that horrible tragedy. So that's kind of where I wanted to start you off with. I know I'm kind of rambling and going in different directions there. Main thing for you to put into your notes today, I want you to know the numbers of Jews, so that there's only about 14 million worldwide today. I would also want you to know another key concept is, just to repeat it real quick, that Jews are really the only example that I'm going to cover in this unit, that it's a religion on the one hand, and it's also an ethnic group kind of tied and linked together. And that actually a lot of Jews are actually atheists, but not all of them. So kind of murky, and I know that can get confusing. If you're unclear on any of this, or after watching the other videos that I have posted, if you have more questions for me, or want to chat about this a little bit more, by all means, hit me up, and I'll be happy to follow up with you. Now, I couldn't make up my mind. I have two videos today that really kind of go over what Judaism is in probably more and better detail than what I have. Both of them really kind of hit on the same topics. You can watch both of them if you want, but you really don't have to. The requirement will be you have to pick one of the other two videos that I have posted on this lesson and view it all the way through. So you might want to just check out the first 30 seconds to a minute of each, and then decide which of the guys you think is a little bit more interesting or your style. And in either of the two videos, you're going to get roughly the same information. All right. See you next time.